my personal story in terms of self-care with cannabis, I have a long history of anxiety and depression. Um, my first experience with cannabis, I was 17, and it was laced. And yeah, and so it took a very long time for me to get back to cannabis. And same with you, Ethereum. When I initially started the edibles company, it's because I needed to make money. I had lost my job. I had a very cushy event planning job on the Upper East Side, and nobody could call me not planning. And the problem with old money is they don't care about the people getting new money. So I lost my job, and I was out here in Jersey by myself with my kids, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And I started making edibles, and I was initially just trying to get people high. And of course, when you're making these things, you have to test them, and I was scared to death. So I started taking them, and what happened is that I was confronted head on with my anxieties. And in doing that, along with therapy, along with building a support group, I was able to conquer a lot of my issues. I still go through a lot of things. Of course, we're all learning and growing, but being able to tackle the anxieties made me a much better parent. Because initially when my daughter came, I not only had baby blues and postpartum, I didn't have a very good example of parenting from my parents. And I had to learn how to reparent myself so I could reparent my children. So my daughter has seen a progression in me, and it has made her melt as a child. And that gives me goosebumps because now she's a lot more physical with me, a lot of kissing, and I love you, mommy, where I didn't get those before because mommy was always sad. So cannabis has helped with my anxiety, and it's amazing to see the things that it does for others. But I'd like to hear your stories and what you've gained in the process.
I was very sick when I became a patient. Like I said, I have rheumatoid arthritis, but I had multiple autoimmune diseases also that were not identified or like undiagnosable. But I had all of the symptoms of like every autoimmune disease. So I was really so sick years ago that I was really begging God to kill me. Like I really made my peace with that, and I couldn't be the mother I wanted to be, just living on the couch. So my kids also got to witness the transformation from mommy's always sick to like mommy is like back, and it's great that I have such an advantage that my kids got to witness that. There's very little that I needed to explain to them because they saw it.
Yeah.
So now they are like tiny advocates that, of course I had to talk with my kids, and of course I was worried about trying it. I tried medical marijuana as a last ditch effort. It really was like a Hail Mary. I didn't think it would really work. And then when it did, then the concern a little bit of what are people going to think and what should I tell my kids about it kind of hit me. And then when I tried to talk to my kids about it, they kind of talked to me about it. And we're like, you can do this now, you can do this now, you can do this now. And before you were doing this and this and this. And since they got to witness that, it was like the biggest testimony to it being medicine. And that I've asked my kids too, like, if you see a stoner stereotype on TV, I ask my kids all the time, like, do you ever see mommy like that? Or daddy too, because daddy's a patient now too. Yeah. Do you ever see mommy and daddy like that? Or do you feel like that's what we're like when we use our medicine? And each kid has been like laughed at us and been like, no, you guys are like always busy and always, you're always making us do stuff. Yeah. So it's really it didn't hit a wall where we were like, we got to talk about this now. It was so appropriate, that they saw it. But I did have an age-appropriate conversation with each one of them. But as far as my personal journey, I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for medical marijuana. And as soon as I was better and off all those other medications, I was like, I feel like we need to tell everyone.
Right.
Because I felt like I was such a non-believer, and I'm pretty open-minded, and I was like, well, like, you know, marijuana can't touch my illnesses, like my pain, and you don't understand what I'm struggling with if you're recommending marijuana to me. But then once it worked, I was like, people need to know, and I feel like it's a moral obligation now to tell people there is a better way. I get it that you don't really believe it, because I didn't believe it either, and it sounds cliche, but there really is a better way.
Yeah.
And in that, you know, so many other lessons have come, but just for my personal journey as a parent, that was the beginning of my journey, and then I felt like I needed to tell everyone.
Did you partake in cannabis prior to medical intervention?
I did, you know, looking back on it, for years I did, before I had kids and before I got sick. When I look back at it now, I used to use marijuana to stimulate my appetite. When I look back at it now, because I had some eating problems like back in the day, just I think stemming from anxiety and things like that. But I didn't realize it at the time. It was just always like, I don't know, I guess kind of like a joke, like she smokes all day, but not really. I just smoke before breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I need them. I need to eat. So I did, but not. Now that I look back, it was always medical. It was always medical.
And I hear that story all the time. People are medicating and not realizing they're medicating until they have a routine.
Yeah. Or until a doctor is like behind it, then you're like, oh, it's medical, but it was always medical.
Yeah. It's like the natural things of like how dogs eat leaves when they're constipated. Right. And we don't know that we're doing this. And I always say, I'm in the midst of this whole like spiritual awakening right now. So I feel like a lot of the things that help us as humans have always been here. Yoga, meditation. But they become so cliche in the process. And 100%, if we have the endocannabinoid system and marijuana works with our system like that to help us regulate, this is a plant put here for us, and it just gained, you know, bad traction along the way. But I'd love to hear some other stories about how cannabis has helped you guys as parents.
I didn't realize that cannabis was helping me become I'm not even gonna say like a better parent until I want to say when I look like, I think it was a time where I was like looking back and I was just like, I'm going to have to introduce this to him soon because this is becoming a part of my lifestyle. When I decided that I wanted to have a blog, that's when I'm just like, wow, I'm just going to have, before I tell other people what I do, I'm going to tell him one day what I'm going to do because this is my passion.
Right.
So I'm going to have to educate him. My story with cannabis, just to give I guess a little bit of backstory, I tried cannabis, I think I was like 15, nothing happened. So I was just like, okay. I guess it was just like one blunt, like high schoolers between like 8 people. This isn't gonna do anything, but the other side to that is that I came from my family was like a long line of like alcoholics. So from that, I was just like, I don't even like the taste of alcohol. I don't like what it's done to certain people in my family. I know the bad side to alcohol.
Right.
And I see like the party side. I'm just like, it doesn't look like that. It tears up so many families, and that's what my view was on that. My uncle was the only person who smoked cannabis in our family, and to me, not that his life looked successful, but like, he wasn't a drunk.
It looked better than others.
It was like, I was like, well, that's how a pothead, like, he went to...
He was in
like,
control.
Yeah, like, he was always in control. He everybody in my family had a decent job, but he was just, like, really enjoying life. And the only thing I would see in his pocket was, like, a little something in his pocket that was green. I was like, what? I wonder what that is. It's like, I've seen that before. So I started smoking, I want to say I was like 19, like with my friends after work. And that's what relaxed me. Like if I wanted to go into a party scene, I wouldn't drink. I would just smoke and I would enjoy myself with that. Right. I'm not throwing up in the bathroom. I'm not like worrying about like guys slipping things in my drink. I'm not doing any of that. So, but then a turning point was when I got arrested for marijuana. So I was on a date with a guy, and we were just, we were going on a date. We went to Wayne, New Jersey. We went to go see Harold and Kumar, and we smoked on the way there. Coming back, we were just like driving home. A cop pulled us over. They were like, "Your tail light, something," and it was just like, "This is mom's brand new car. Nothing's like wrong with it." And then he's like, "Oh, I smell marijuana." So I was just like, "No, you don't."
Right. Like, we saw a whole movie.
Yeah. So I was like, "Fuck, okay, like nothing's in there." I knew the guy for like a while. Like we were like really good friends. Mason jar after mason jar after mason jar after mason jar of marijuana like got pulled out of his car, and I was just like in handcuffs, like, "Oh, what the fuck? Like what?" No, I was just like, no.
Oh my god.
Why did I smoke you up if you have all this weed?
That would be my first question too.
And then next thing you know, we're just like, boom, like we're taking pictures. They're asking me all these questions. I'm just like, my mama's gonna kill me. And then I remember coming home like mad late, and for some reason she didn't question it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna tell my mama I got a court date. And she found out. I guess somebody called, like the police or somebody called my house, and then I'm at work. She's like, "You got arrested for smoking weed?" And I was just like,
maybe.
No,
ringing up a customer, like,
who's this?
like, and she basically, I was on my own. Like my mom was just like, "You got yourself in this. You can get yourself out."
Yeah.
And I was just like. The only thing she gave me was like a lawyer to see, and he was like, "Have you ever done like any crimes to that prior?" Was nothing. Like I had nothing on my record, and it was just me and him sitting down. The prosecutor was like, "Okay, well, one of you has to take the rap," and I was just like, "Oh, well,
You had mason jars. You had mason jars.
And then we were like. He was basically, he wanted to be a cop, and if he had this on his record.
No.
And I was
What a
just
gentleman.
like, what
What a
does that
gentleman.
mean? What does that mean, bro? Like,
No.
so basically, I don't know what he did, but basically the prosecutor was like, okay, so he said you're taking the rap, and then he had left.
No.
So I was just like, what does this mean? Like, am I going to jail? He's like, no, you just have to pay this fine of $1,700.
No big deal.
If you can't pay the $1,700, then you may have to do time. And I was just like,
Oh my God.
and I was just like, thankfully, I had a job where $1,700, like I was just like by myself. I was working a job that had commission at Short Hills Mall. So it's like, they shop like crazy at that time. So I was like, you know, it's $1,700. And they're like, oh, well, it's actually $21.
Oh my gosh.
Of court fees.
Court
And I
fees.
was
I was
just
about to
like, I was like, why? So I went to the ATM. My account was like negative $37. And I was just like, wow. But like, as I got older and wanted to be in the cannabis industry, to know that some people don't have $1,700 to come out of a win, to see stories that people get just caught up in the system with just not being able to have the money.
Right.
Like.
So what ended up happening? So what is your record?
So my record was expunged because I had money.
Wow.
That was the only reason I went. They basically put me under conditional discharge. It's basically like a level down from probation. You go in, they cotton swab you, and then they ask you, did you pay your fine? And I was like, yeah, I paid my fine. And I was like, okay, well, goodbye.
Yeah, like G-Step. What happened to
Yeah.
homie?
Oh, he's, just
Living his
Chilling.
like,
With his
living
mason
best
jars.
life. So that started to play in my mind as well as a parent, because I'm raising a black man essentially. So it's just like, not only do I have to tell him that it's a plant, that it's great, it has so many great things that we haven't even discovered yet, but it's just like, you're not really included right now. There's more black men who are incarcerated while people in Silicon Valley are just like skipping, having dispensaries right and left as if it's like chicken shacks. Like,
that part.
And then,
May have been on worse drugs and they never got caught.
exactly. And with me as like from a mental health standpoint, I know that it's just helped me so much because I've just recently been diagnosed bipolar, and I've been suffering with depression and anxiety without even knowing it. Because I guess in a Black and brown community, when you're told that when you're depressed or you're sad,
Pray on it.
it's gonna
It
get
could be
better.
worse.
It can be like
You have a
that's-
roof.
Snap
I'm
out of
cool.
it. Just can't. That's
Yeah.
a big one. Like,
That's like I can't snap out of it. I don't know why I've been sad for like 37 days and I can't explain it. And so I went to therapy. That's when things got really bad where it's just like I was suicidal. And that was just like, you know what? At that point, someone asked me like, "Oh, did your son even play a factor?" And it's just like it did. He did.
Yeah,
like, you
so
have no
much.
idea what pains you when you're going through this, but you have a child that you have to raise
Yeah.
and they have to look up to you. And it's just like something's wrong where I'd rather give up motherhood than to live a life one more day. Like nobody asks the questions why. They just instantly judge you.
Absolutely.
So I went to a facility at Overlook. I was there for about 7 days, and then I did 8 to 10 weeks of group therapy. And then through all of that, the conversations of marijuana came up, because once they find out that marijuana's been in your system, they'll put you in like a separate program with people who suffer from other drugs like alcohol, heroin, and things like that. And I'm just kind of looking around, like not to judge anybody, because I can't even imagine. I know what it's like to like have an alcohol problem. I know what it's like to have like suffer from crack or cocaine. Like I've seen that in my family. So, but for me, it's just like, if you want me to stop smoking weed for like 8 to 6 weeks, I can.
Right.
And I will, just to show you that it's like I'm not going to be itching or scratching. Maybe my anxiety will now reappear because I can't, because I know that me doing a wake and bake can better turn my day around.
Right.
Or me just like being a little bit overwhelmed with bills, or being overwhelmed with like, you got science fair projects, you got this doctor's appointment, that doctor's appointment, you gotta make sure you're spending time with him, you gotta make sure you're working on your craft. It's like you don't know sometimes what to put first.
Right.
And weed just like instantly does that for me. Now I will say that talking with a psychiatrist, he was open to the fact that cannabis could be a drug. I mean, I'm sorry, it should be it should be considered. But I did, for the sake of being, to I guess like kind of hold like, yeah, you know, I am bipolar. There are things that like, it's not a myth. Like one day my mood can be this way on a Tuesday, one day my mood can be that way on a Friday, and I just needed to have that balance. So he did put me on a schedule where I can have prescription drugs as well as cannabis, and they can actually act together. And it was so
that's
just
a great
like the
doctor.
fact that we're just like working together, and then but not too many people actually benefit from that. Like not too many people have doctors where there's just like cannabis, whatever. It's just that pharmaceuticals are just being pushed, and that's what they're getting paid off. They're not getting paid off you getting up in this little marijuana card and getting like blue dream and being like good night.
Right.
So
I see. I was gonna ask you a question. Has the cannabis enabled you to weed off of some of the other drugs?
It was never a weed. It was actually just introduced like a combination of both.
Okay.
Like I don't know if like if anybody ever like heard of these drugs, but it's like a Seroquel. Is a good drug for me in the dosage that he gave me, because what was happening is that I didn't have good sleep patterns. Like there would be days where I would just not sleep for 72 hours, and we all know like what the mind can like go with that, and it was just like I wasn't even in a functional headspace to probably parent correctly, just from not having sleep, not having a good diet, not just doing things for my self-care. So that's where I think cannabis came in, like has been a balance for me. as far as trying to introduce it to him now, I think since he's, I'm sorry.
We'll get there. No, but that's actually a really good point about the balance between medicinal, medical marijuana and pharmaceuticals, and how, like, I really
We never want to demonize pharmaceuticals.
Right, exactly.
Even I have gotten off a bunch of pharmaceuticals, but I always make it a point to say I still am on some, and I need them, and I will need them for life.
right.
So some and I guess the what I've at least been hearing, bad things are the opioids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say bad things are opioids. There's end-of-life cancer patients that really need opioids,
Yeah,
and
okay.
there's people that need opioids every day. But as far as the abuse
Yeah,
potential
right.
and the
Okay.
addiction part, I mean, like, each one of us here, I didn't even touch on it, but each one of us has an example of bad parenting or not good parenting and addiction. I do too. So I don't want to say opiates are bad.
Okay.
The addiction potential is so much higher
Right.
compared to other things, marijuana.
Okay.
Even if you decrease opiates and use medical marijuana with it, I still say that's a win.
Right.
She has a
Okay.
combination of very clear medical, path that her and her medical professional worked out. That's great. I would say the goal is to use it together in
Right.
combination. I would never encourage anyone to get totally off pharmaceuticals and
Right.
that's the right way to go.
Right.
That's
Okay.
between you and your doctor. But adding it in combination, maybe you'll start seeing a decrease in other pharmaceuticals and eventually get off all of them or not.
Okay.
But
so
whatever's
it's a
between
process.
you and your doctor, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
People,
Okay.
I think, forget or people assume that it's like a one size fits all.
Right,
And it's
right.
not. Everybody's different. Like you
Right.
need cannabis and medicine, and then maybe the next person just needs cannabis, and
Yeah.
you're your own person. You got to figure that out for yourself. You need to do your homework. You need to contact your doctor. You need to know
Yeah.
what works. You're a guinea pig. You're gonna be a guinea pig for a while. Like,
Mhm.
You need to figure out your own body.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
one else is gonna do that for you. The internet's not gonna do that for you. A
Right.
blog, maybe it could guide you to the right way, but everybody's different, and I don't think we should try to put everybody in the same box because not everybody is the same.
Absolutely. I mean, just to attest, like, prior to this particular stint in my life, I was on those Lexapros.
Yeah.
And I was on the Zoloft, and
Mhm.
and even though they helped to balance out, there was no care. I mean, I was in therapy, but that care wasn't helping
Mhm.
because I was so dulled
Yes.
by that. So this particular time around, I'm just using cannabis in conjunction with an amazing therapist who I actually want her to be a part of this at some point. And it's been so helpful. But again, yes, it's not one size fits all. And another thing, and this is a whole other topic, but another thing is that we're not conditioned for self-care.
Yeah.
And in self-care, that's when you learn your body and you learn your mind and you learn what works with you. But I'd like to hear your experience as well.
I'm just like you. I was diagnosed with bipolar at the age of 15. My mother had a very negative view on cannabis. I think my whole family, being the Spanish community, it's very like, no, the devil, like,
Yes,
it's like
the
the devil, like. If my mom felt the same way about cigarettes, God forbid she saw someone smoke a cigarette, she's like, they're gonna go to hell. And I'm just like, my mom was very judgmental, very judgy, but my friends were opposites.
What kind of Spanish are you?
Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay. So my mom's Dominican, so I come from that family.
Everything's evil,
Right.
the
The
evil
devil.
eye. And so like as I grew up, it was very conflicting because she would always tell me like, weed is bad, smoking cigarettes is bad, this is evil, it's gonna make you go crazy, you're gonna get stupid,
We're gonna go
all
into
all
those
these
stories.
stigmas. But it was funny because all my friends were smoking weed, and my friends, they were going to college and they were getting their masters and they were doing things with their lives, and I was always like, I want to, but I don't know if I should. And then my mom always like, well, you can't smoke weed because you're bipolar. Don't forget that. And if you smoke weed and combine that with your mental health, she thought that I was gonna like lose my shit. She thought like I was gonna go like butt naked running down the street like and it was crazy. And she's also a nurse, so I was like, that was also very interesting to me. And then as I got older and I had my daughter, and my mom was like, you're not gonna be a good mother. Basically told me straight out because of my bipolar disorder. And she's like, you're not going to be able to do that. You're so much stress, it's this and that. And at one point, I went to see a therapist just like you, and I tried to get help, and I wanted to be honest with my therapist. And I told my therapist, like, I smoke cannabis, and her first suggestion was, well, let's take you to Marijuana Anonymous. Like, she wanted to put me in a group, and it was this whole thing. So I had to go on a self journey on myself, and because I knew in my heart what I was doing wasn't wrong, because I knew all my friends were becoming successful people, and I knew that, again, bipolar disorder is not something that's really spoken about. It's not something that people aren't really educated on the topic.
It's
And they
become
judge you so
right.
fast.
It's become super commercialized.
Right.
So I don't like. I have a bipolar diagnosis as well, but I don't even say that because the second you say that,
Right.
people automatically assume you're gonna fly off.
Right.
Mhm.
But they feel like they have to tiptoe around you and
Right.
stuff.
Exactly.
And people don't understand that it's a chemical imbalance.
Right.
There's nothing like, hey brain, like chill out on the serotonin level.
Right.
Like, I'm feeling really depressed. Like, there's nothing that. So I went on a self journey, and when I had my daughter, I realized I don't want her to go through those things.
Mhm.
I don't want her to get fed the wrong information. I don't want people to tell her, like, you can't become successful because of your mental disorder. You can't combine this with this and make it work, even though I knew it was working for me, but everyone was telling me that it wasn't.
Right.
So as I got older and as I had my daughter, like, my daughter knows I go to therapy, and like, I tell her I'm going to the doctor, but kids think the shot doctor, you're gonna take your heart meds or whatever. But she knows when I say I'm gonna go to the doctor, she's like, oh, is the doctor gonna make sure your brain is okay? Like, and I was like, yeah, like, she's a doctor that checks my head, and she just makes sure that everything is balanced, that mommy's gonna be good, so that I can continue being the best mom for you. And this is why we go. So she'll say hi to my therapist, and I stopped seeing her because of her wanting me to go to Marijuana Anonymous, but I've been in the journey of finding a new therapist that's able to combine, because I know medication works for me personally.
Right.
So I want to combine my medication with my cannabis, and I want to make it work hand in hand, and I had to stop seeing her because she was not for that. So I'm really happy to know that there's hope out there,
Right.
that there's
Absolutely.
therapy out there that could actually want to correlate the two.
Yeah.
And cannabis just kind of fell into that with, I was always smoking, but when I got into the business with him and realized all the medical benefits with that, I was just very open with my daughter with it. Like, she knows, like, well, we're in the kitchen and we're baking and stuff like that. My daughter knows, like, is this for kids or is this for adults?
Yes. Same.
She asked me, and she won't touch, because I explained to her, I said, baby, even though this looks like candy, this is actually for adults. And if you, if God forbid you take this, I was like, you're going to get very ill. You can't touch this. And she knows. So before she even, like, takes anything out the fridge, like, mommy, is this for kids or is this for adults? And I'm like, oh, it's like, it's for kids, so you're good. You're good. She's like, okay, I just want to make sure, because I don't want to get sick, because she thinks she's going to get sick.
She said.
But she's 6 now. As I get older, we're going to, like you said, every age appropriate conversation. She knows mommy does edibles and that these are for people that need it. You know what I mean? So she knows, she can only understand so much, but she knows enough that when I'm doing, I'm helping people, and she knows enough not to touch anything in my house, and she's got to ask for it.